Hey Knights! So this is the next chapter bunch of the Traveler's Wish. So chapter 44. It was nearly 1 a.m. when we returned back to the lair. After the show, we were flogged by audience members at the meet and greet area. Mostly teenage girls who rushed right past me and asked for pictures with the yummy flying Zemphria boys. It didn't bother me. I just smiled, took their cameras, and snapped a photo whenever someone asked. I've been in the limelight for nearly 13 years now. It was time for them to get a little glory. It's okay. All the little girls and boys wanted their pictures with me anyways, and seeing the little kids' eyes light up like they just met a celebrity is just as good. Signing autographs was a bit tricky at first because the only one who actually had a decent signature was Donatello. And even he couldn't work a pen in his 5-fingered human hands. But with a little ring-generated seed and dew help from yours truly, they managed just fine. The first one in line was April. She had only a few seconds to hug and congratulate each of us before she was overrun by the rest of our fans. "You did amazing, Donnie," April told Donnie as she squeezed him in a hug. He shot me a look that clearly stated, "Worth it." I smiled and sent a wink. Even after the crowd had left the building, my brother insisted we stay for dinner at the cookhouse. The aroma of the delicious meatloaf and mashed potatoes filled the air, along with the sounds of many jokes and stories the rest of the performers had told us. "I don't think I've ever been this tired in my life," complained Mikey as he plopped down on the couch. "Man, this human body is pathetic," moaned Leonardo. "My sons, you have returned," greeted Master Splinter, exiting his room as he slid his paper door shut, then headed towards us. "Sensei," they all nodded respectfully in unison. "Hello, sir," I greeted. "My boys, you made an old rat quite proud tonight. A truly breathtaking performance," he boasted as he hugged each one. "You saw us, Father? How?" wondered Leo. "Abel recorded the whole thing and sent it to my communications device in what I believe is called a video mail," he answered. Everyone returned to their rooms, exhausted from the show. When everything was quieted down, I creeped over to Donnie's room. He wasn't in it. He's probably in his lab spending so much time there. I was right. There he was, working on some mathematical solution of whatnot. Let's just say science is not my strong point. Knock, knock. He swiveled in his little office chair. "Come in." He smiled a little, revealing the gap in his teeth. His lab was really organized, just like his room. I detect a faint trace of OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder. "I need a favor," I told him, sitting against his desk. "When does someone ever not?" He chuckled a bit. It's always, "Donatello, can you make me this? Donnie, can you fix that? Don, why haven't you built my indoor skate park yet?" But none of them can ask as sweetly as I can. I did my best puppy face. Which I might add is another one of my not-so-strong points. "True. What do you need?" He leaned back in his seat. "I'm going to need you to test something for me, but I'm going to need you to promise not to question. Okay? No questions asked, okay?" My tone became a bit more serious. "Well, what could the alien from a parallel world possibly want me to test?" I could see the sarcasm in his adorable reddish-brown eyes. I reached in my pocket and pulled out a single strand of raven black hair. Chiari's hair. "I need you to do a DNA test on this, then run it against your own DNA. I placed it in his hands. "It's black. You don't have black." I cut him off quickly. "No questions asked, remember? But I promise, you will find out everything soon." He looked a little suspicious, but nodded and agreed in the end. I couldn't tell him about Chiari being Miwa. 1, that was the master's business, and 2, I had to have proof of just how much she was related, if at all. "Thanks, Donnie." I turned, and he was about to leave. After the show, Donatello spoke up. I turned back towards him. "April, well, she looked at me differently, I guess, but a good differently." He smiled impossibly huge and gracious. "Thank you." Why is he thanking me? For what? I asked, puzzled. For giving me hope where I thought I had none. And for that moment, his eyes did shine bright with hope. I'd just lie on my couch smiling, thinking back to all the events of the day, about Raphael and how proud I was of each of my boys. Raphael walked slowly in the living room, probably thinking me asleep and not wanting to wake me. Curious as to what he was doing, I remained silent. He rubbed his right shoulder. "Ah," he whimpered to himself. Opening the freezer, he took out an ice pack. Something that, due to all the training, battles, and just plain stupid teenage boys' accidents, they needed around here. The light from the fridge showed the tiredness on his face. Poor Raph. This must be hard for him, from going from a super-strong ninja to a weak and breakable human. I waited till he shut the door to his room before I got up and grabbed my tube of Icy Hot out of my bag. Icy Hot and ibuprofen, and Ariela's best friends. I knocked on his door. Many keep-out stickers stuck to it. No, Mikey, you cannot borrow my comic books again. You got pizza on them last time, he yelled from inside. I cracked the door open and poked my head inside. He was sitting on his bed, holding the ice pack to his shoulder. It's not Michelangelo, but I can wake him if you want it to be, I joked. He saw me, and a very sexy smile played on his face. Sup? I stepped in, closing the door that looked like it had been slammed way too hard, way too many times. Your shoulder okay? I was concerned. I sat behind him on the edge of the bed. Yeah, not pulled, just sore. It's not something I'm used to, this body. Well, let's say the muscles there, but it's like they've never been used before. Like my arms, neck, and back. It's all sore. Well, if you think about it, they haven't. This body is new. It's got the muscles, but it's like new shoes. They've got to be broken in. Take off your shirt, I ordered, stepping onto his bed. Whoa, hold on. At least buy me dinner first, he chuckled. I didn't move. He raised his eyebrows. Oh, you're serious? He took it off. Mamma mia, Vincenzi's Dolores. My mind began spouting off made-up mafia swear words at the sight. He eyed me curiously as kneeled up on the bed beside him. I squeezed some icy hot onto my hands and began massaging it first into his shoulder. Ah, he sighed, closing his eyes. You really know how to keep a guy on his toes now, don't you? What is that stuff? It's burning cold, and it smells really strong, like one of Dawn's chemicals. I began kneading the knots out of his back while still working the muscle cream into his skin. It's your new best friend, Catcher. It's going to be cold for a while, but then it'll burn and warm after a bit. It's going to dull the pain, and I don't think it smells that bad. I called the tube and stood up to leave when he grabbed my arm and pulled me back down onto the bed with him. I laughed as my head hit the pillow. Where do you think you're going? He began stroking my hair and running his thumb down my jawline. I giggled slightly as I softly kissed him and then snuggled up beside him and laid my head on his chest. We lay like this for a few minutes, just silently enjoying each other's company and closeness. And then he finally spoke. I now finally understand why Leo likes Chiari so much. He was still stroking my hair. He does now, does he? Oh, and what's that? I asked as I wrapped my arm across his torso. I never understood why he likes her. I mean, she kicks his ass, and next thing you know, he's making moony eyes and staring off into space. He rolled his eyes, then continued. That night, after we first fought in the dojo, I was laying in bed, and it just hit me. The whole getting your ass kicked thing, it's a major turn-on. Then, that's when I knew I started to like you. I mean, when I first met you, don't get me wrong, you were a dime babe, sexy as hell, but I didn't start liking you till after you kicked my ass. Then he laughed. We should get Donnie to fight April, then maybe she'll notice him too. I tilted my head back and shot him a look. I'm kidding. Well, maybe not. I laughed and squeezed him a bit. I lay there till I felt his breath even out and slow down. He was asleep, really, just tuckered out. I carefully climbed off of the bed. Good night, Raphael, I whispered and kissed him on the head. Chapter 45. I wonder what she could want, I thought to myself as I wandered through the endless white hallways. My body far away from on the Ninja Turtle parallel, but my mind had been brought here. I heard the jingles of her ankle bracelets seated up on her white glass throne was the goddess. I curtsied. Hello, your highness. Correct me if I am wrong, but do I take the faintest trace of love, traveler? She eyed me, waiting for the answer. Love for what? What do you mean? She shook her head disapprovingly. The boy, the reptile boy. Raphael? What does that even mean? And why is she saying it like a bad thing? I'm not in love. But am I? I mean, I like him, like a lot. But does that make me in love? She cut me off. It is not wise to fall in love or pursue relationships with beings from parallels, Roxanne. What does she mean? It's not wise. Excuse me? Is she going to make me stop? I'm not ordering you to stop, Roxanne, but I know that's what you must be thinking. I'm just warning you. Remember, when you leave, and you will leave, he, like the rest of the inhabitants of that world, will forget about you and your existence. I gulped. They will all forget about me? What about all the things I helped them with? Being human, will they forget that too? But what about all of the things I've done and fixed? Will that all just disappear as well? She hopped off her throne and put her beautiful mini ring-covered hand on my shoulder. No, that will remain. Only the memory of you will be gone. The white room faded away. I was on my way back to the dressing room after the show from signing autographs. The boys had gone ahead. I had been mauled by a class of 6-year-olds, all wanting my autograph, and they got mad if I didn't put a heart on each one. I opened the door. The room was empty. That's strange. Where are the guys? I felt something prick my neck. I reached up and pulled it out. It was a tranquilizer dart. I turned and saw a group of 5-foot ninja closing in on me. Oh crud, was all I could say before I passed out. I woke to the sound of an electric saw. I opened my eyes, carrying butts all around me. Groggy, my vision still blurry, I tried to get up and run, but I found I was strapped down. Tubes attached to me, drawing out my blood. What is that sawing noise? Once my vision returned, I looked down to my right hand and saw that a Kerrang was trying to cut my ring off. He pushed the saw out onto it again, and it flashed green, zapping him and causing his robot suit to malfunction and convulse. My ring looked unscathed. I struggled, but the straps held me in place. The one known as the Traveler has awoken, one of the Kerrang announced. Wait, I can teleport. I tried, and nothing happened. I shut my eyes and concentrated till I almost had a headache, but still, nothing happened. Resistance is futile. The inhabitor counteracts your powers. A Kerrang without the robot suit hovered above me in its small floating craft. They're really quite disgustingly scary this close up. Where are my friends? I yelled at it. Fear had completely taken over my body, and my claustrophobia had begun to set in. His expression remained the same. It is unknown to Kerrang what the ones known as Shredder has done to those you refer as friends, nor does Kerrang care. Shredder? The Shredder has them? Chapter 46. I screamed as they took me again and again, as they shocked me again and again with a small triangular handheld metallic device. After each zap, they would demand I remove my ring and surrender it to them. Each time I refused, they would increase the voltage, making me cry out louder and louder till my screams echoed out throughout the entire building I was being held captive in. I didn't give it to them because I knew the second I did, my leverage and any chance I had of escape would be gone. They would either kill me instantly or continue to torture me to find out how the ring and my powers worked, and I could only pray it would be the first one, but I severely doubt it. My ring would keep me alive, in pain, but alive, and I needed to know what happened to the turtles. I was hooked up to several alien-looking machines, but one of them, strangely, was an ordinary hospital heart rate monitor. It was beating rapidly, matching my own terrified heart, with tears streaming down my cheeks. The one called the Traveler will remove the power source sooner rather than later, its voice emotionless as it held the taser above me in its cold metal fingers. The one called the Kerrang can go to the place known as Hell, I hissed through gritted teeth. Very well, Kerrang will have the power source, was all it said before it turned a knob on the taser. The light in the middle went from blue to orange, then finally to blood red. Oh no. He jabbed it into my side. Blue electricity shot out of it and enveloped my whole body rapidly. The pain was so bad I couldn't even scream. My body began to twitch and convulse uncontrollably. Then suddenly it faded away. I felt my heart slow down. Then it stopped. Everything slowed down, as if someone or something had applied the brakes to the wheels of time. I sat up, suddenly remarkably calm and at peace, not thinking, feeling no fear. I looked down at my torso. I can see right through it. I was a pale blue color, but this didn't bother me, as I felt no emotion. I passed easily through the bonds that had strapped me down to the table, and I was floating, hovering a good 2 feet off the pale gray concrete floor. And time resumed normal form. Resumed normal form. It is unconscious, stated the Kerrang bot. It? I looked back to the table and saw my own body, unconscious, writhing uncontrollably, still attached to the table. What is going on? My emotions finally kicked back in. I began to panic. Looking at me through the blue hands, it scared me beyond belief. Am I dead? Am I a ghost? That's impossible. I can't die. The goddess told me so. And my body was clearly very alive. I was having an out-of-body experience. Before I could contemplate, my ghostly form was swooshed away rapidly, so fast everything that passed me was a blur. Passing through solid wall and doors with ease, and just as rapidly as I had started, I stopped. I was in what I recognized to be Shredder's throne room. I floated above the blood-red carpet, barely only 3 feet away from Chiari, who was kneeling on a floor, eyes downcast. There stood the Shredder, in his usual attire of armor covered in blades with long, deep purple cape. His mouth guard was not yet attached to his also razor-sharp helmet, revealing a disgustingly scarred, burnt, and unmistakably evil face. This Orakusaki was my sarcastic supervillain, who constantly tried to take over the world while coming up with brilliant and hilarious insults to hurl at the turtles. No, this man before me was a monster, a pure psychopathic monster. My heart leapt to my throat as I noticed the Shredder looking directly at me. But then I realized he wasn't looking at me. He was looking through me. Nobody can see me? I turned in midair and saw a man bound to a chair, black cloth bag hiding his head. Probably a foot soldier who talked back, or a purple dragon who disobeyed orders. You disappointed me, Chiari, he hissed, then strode over behind her. But no matter, most of your punishment has already been dealt with, he said while prodding his 2 fingers sharply into her back. She winced. She winced in pain, but never removed her eyes off the floor. I noticed a long, thin, red line peeking out the top of the back of her shirt and trailing all the way to right below her hairline. That looks like a whiplash. Did he have her whipped? For what? She was a faithful little daughter and told her daddy everything I told her at the balcony. She betrayed me. Do you think I would not notice you gone? Did you think I would not have you followed and recorded? He turned his back to her. Did you think that alien your friend? Why didn't you smite her where she stood? Why did you keep her secrets from me? His voice dripped with pure, horrifying evil. My ghostly body shuddered. I owed her a debt. She saved my life, father. Asaki always pays their debt. She spoke quietly and slightly broken. This was not the headstrong and fearless Chiara I was used to. So she didn't betray me after all. He turned back to her angrily, his cape sailing out behind him. You sound just like him, he yelled, pointing his finger at her in rage. Who? She asked meekly. Splinter. As any money, it was Hamata Yoshi, her real father, he was referring to. He shook his head like he had realized that he had just spoken something that he wasn't supposed to. No one. Never mind. He brushed it off. He walked over to the man tied to the chair. The Quran told me this girl just won't break. But everyone breaks. You just need to find the right leverage. After listening to the tape I had, the foot soldiers who followed you recorded, I think it's just the right leverage. What could they mean by that? The turtles? Are they okay? Still alive? He swiftly pulled the bag off the man's head. Seated there, tied down, panting heavily, and looking scared out of his mind, was my brother. Felix! I tried to call out to him, but no sound came out of my mouth. I was just mouthing air. The Shredder has my brother. Oh, please, please, don't let him be hurt. I already lost him once. I can't do it again. Who are you? What do you want? If it's a ransom, I'm sorry, but wire walkers don't make much. My brother's words anxiously poured out of him. Not a ransom. It's simple. If your sister doesn't talk, we simply torture you in front of her until she does, he said while laughing with pure menace. My brother's fear turned to confusion. What are you talking about? My sister's dead, has been for a long time. Chiari, be so kind as to explain this to the fool. The Shredder nodded to her. Still kneeling, she removed her eyes from the floor and gazed at Felix. No, your sister is very much alive. Not quite human, but alive. She performed at the circus on the trapeze. When she finished, she immediately returned her gaze to the blood-red carpet. My cousin? No, that's impossible. She's my sister. She's my sister? Roxy? My sister's alive? Take me to her, screamed my brother while struggling at the ropes that tied him. Silence! The Shredder used the bottom inside of his hand claw to knock my brother across the head. He went out like a light, unconscious. I gasped, but like before, made no sound. He walked back over to Chiari and slowly pulled her crunches from the sheath on her back. He held it out, putting its razor-sharp tip against her neck. She moved her neck sideways, a sign of respect, in order to show defeat and acceptance of a death at his hands. You betrayed me, Chiari. Then he chuckled and handed her blade back to her. But I just thought up the perfect way for you to redeem yourself. I was whooshed away again. Yeah, I'm going to stop that there. It's kind of a good cliffhanger for that video. Alrighty, guys. Until next time, peace out, my knights.